Hey, welcome back. So I just ordered the Sony A7S Mark III and I was going to buy the CFexpress Type A cards for it. And that got me thinking, do I need to buy these cards? Well, let's find out. So before we get into the video, be sure to subscribe if you want more Sony content and like the video if you do end up liking it. So let's talk about what kind of cards you really need for the Sony A7S Mark III. So the Sony A7S Mark III has dual card slots and it also can take two different kinds of cards. Those two cards are SD cards and CFexpress Type A cards. So are SD cards good enough for the Sony A7S Mark III? Well, normal SD cards are not. They're not. If you want to use this camera at its full potential, use all of the recording modes, you cannot just simply get a normal SD card. But we'll talk about that in a second. The dual card slots are there, and you can either film redundant or as a relay. So with redundant, it's just that. It's redundant. You're writing to both of the cards at the same time, the same footage. So you're just getting a backup, basically. In relay, as this top card fills up, it will switch to the bottom card and start filling that card up. This is nice if you're filming like events or something really long. So as this card is filled up, it starts filling up this bottom card, which means that you can switch out the top card, and then as the bottom card fills up, it'll start up at the top card again. Hopefully I said that right. Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. What's also nice is that you can film interchangeably between CFexpress Type A cards and SD cards. So you don't have to have both CFexpress type cards or both SD cards. You can have one and one if you want to do that. One issue that comes up when doing that is that the camera will natively write to the slowest card speed. CFexpress Type A cards and SD cards, what are the differences? Why would I even consider getting one versus the other? Well, speed and storage capacity are the two main reasons why you would want to do that. So with CFexpress Type B cards, we're seeing storage capacities of like 2 terabytes. So in the future, while the CFexpress Type A cards become more common, we're definitely going to see that capacity increase. This is nice because the Sony A7S Mark III has really big file sizes. So you're gonna need as much space as possible. And another factor is the speed of the card. So the fastest cards that we have for SD cards are the UHS Type 2 cards, and the fastest speeds that we could see are about 300 megabytes per second. The fastest speeds that we can see for CFexpress Type A cards can theoretically be about 1000 megabytes per second. So we're seeing a little bit more than 3 times faster speeds with the CFexpress Type A cards than with UHS Type 2 SD cards. And this is important. That's it. This is important. Is this important with the Sony A7S Mark III? Yes and no, but mostly no. So you're pretty much never going to need that fast of speeds with the Sony A7S Mark III. There's literally only one record format that is faster than an SD card will allow, and that is going to be 4K at 120 frames per second XAVC SI, which requires a 1200 megabyte per second speed. That's literally the only time you will ever need a CFexpress Type A card. So if you want to go around and film the highest quality possible 120 frames per second footage, then you should definitely consider getting CFexpress Type A cards. But if you don't want the highest quality 120 frames per second footage possible, then you're probably gonna be fine with an SD card. And that's something that I found out myself, and I canceled my order for CFexpress Type A cards because of this. This is not to say that you can't film in 120 frames per second without a CFexpress Type A card. This just means that you can't film XAVC SI at 1200 megabytes at 120 frames per second. There are, you can still film 120 frames per second, you just can't film the absolute highest quality possible, but you can still film 4K 120 frames per second using SD cards. What are your options for these two cards anyway? Well, the CFexpress Type A cards are brand new. They are being released alongside the Sony A7S Mark III, And this means that there's only one manufacturer and one card to choose from. That's Sony. So Sony is your only option, and there are 2 different capacities that you can choose from. This makes it really simple. So there is the Sony Tough 80GB, which comes out at $198. And then there is the 160GB, which comes out at $398. If you are even looking at getting CFexpress Type A cards, then I would highly recommend getting the 160GB version, because the files that you are going to be recording are very, very big. They are going to be gigantic, so you need as much space as possible. So definitely get the 160GB version, or maybe 2 of them, because there is dual card slots. As far as a CFexpress Type A card reader goes, there is only one option, yet again, and that is Sony. The Sony CFexpress Type A card reader, it comes out to $118. Now with SD cards, there is a lot. SD cards have been around for a while. There is a lot of options to choose from. Like I said earlier, you can't just use any SD card with this camera. So with SD cards, you need a UHS Type 2 card. This means that it has 2 sets of pins on the back, but more important than that, you're gonna need a V90 card. So what am I talking about with the V90? SD card manufacturers are a little bit misleading with their speeds. So obviously they want to advertise the fastest speed that they can. So on the front of your SD card, it probably says something like 150 megabytes per second. This is not the actual speed of the card. That is the read speed. Now, if you do a little bit of digging, it might say that it has speeds up to 90 megabytes per second or something like that. And that's important because there is an up to in there. This means that the fastest it can possibly do is 90 megabytes per second, which, that's not a realistic reading of the speed either. That means that if you're taking one single photo, you're probably gonna get those speeds, but this doesn't reflect the speed that you get with video. With video, you're doing 24 single photos every second, so you need to find out what the sustained write speed of this card is. And we do that with the V rating. So it's either gonna be V30, V60, or V90. And this means it's either gonna have a sustained speed of 30 megabytes per second, 60 megabytes per second, or 90 megabytes per second. So the fastest cards that we can get currently are the V90s. So we're definitely gonna wanna go with those for the A7S Mark III. Just a small little summary before we go forward a little bit. With SD cards and the Sony A7S Mark III, we are looking for UHS 2 cards with a rating of V90. So what are our options for those? Unfortunately, SanDisk does not have any options. They don't have any cards that have a V90 rating. So we basically have 2 options, Lexar and ProGrade. I would personally choose Lexar cards. Those are the cards that I currently use. The cards that I would recommend are the 128 gigabyte Lexar UHS Type 2 V90 cards. So if you want to just buy one card, you can get that card for $168, or they have a 2-pack that they sell, and that is going to be $259. I would recommend getting the 2-pack since you have dual card slots with this camera anyway. And if you don't want to like mix and match your cards that you use, so you want to kind of use the same cards for the dual card slots, that's just will eliminate a lot of problems that may come up. But I would highly recommend getting the 2-pack of these cards. But if you do need more capacity than 128 gigs, ProGrade does offer 256 gig UHS Type 2 cards. They also have single and a 2-pack. So the single card is gonna be $240, and then the 2-pack is gonna be $430. But like I said, I use Lexar, so I can, at least like speak for Lexar. I've never used a ProGrade card, so I don't know how well those really work. And finally, we have to talk about SD card readers. So yes, you can use any SD card reader with UHS 2 cards, but if you use a UHS 2 card reader, you're gonna get faster speeds. If you're trying to transfer over 128 gigs, then you're probably gonna want a little bit faster speed so you're not sitting there for hours. I would actually recommend the ProGrade Dual UHS 2 card reader. This comes out to about $80, and it's actually a dual card reader, so you can use 2 SD cards and have them transferring at the same time. And then as like a little added benefit, it is magnetic, so you can just like slap it on the back of your laptop, which is kind of nice if you're traveling. That was a lot, but that is actually all that I have to say. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helped you with finding the correct card for the Sony A7S Mark III. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot more A7S Mark III content on this channel, so be sure to subscribe, like the video if you did end up liking it, and comment below what kind of cards you're using, because why not? Well, that's it. All right? All right.
You